Are you okay now?
No, I'm pretty far from okay.
I didn't tell like you have to propose me tomorrow.
Flashback.
We have to take marriage to me to move to America. So maybe he don't mean what he said.
I have a ring on, and then I'll be like, look, I'm married. This guy, off limits.
You're not being real with me. You're not being real with me.
I have to sit back and laugh because it's his turn to suffer.
I would like to know where these people have found all of their audacity. It is overflowing this season between Veah insisting on a throuple and Brian thinking that he's the prize. I am truly dumbfounded, and this is just scratching the surface. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. Per usual, we have so much to get into. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you to my subscribers. I love you. I hope that you're having an amazing start to your week. But yeah, let's start it up with some mess. We're gonna jump straight in with Niles and Matilda. Honestly, I feel like these two are gonna give us the drama until like the very last episode because there's always something happening. So as we know, he told Matilda that he has no job. They're in this hotel room. The vibes are off. It's super tense because he only has $100 and they need $400 to, fulfill the wedding expectations. Apparently Matilda borrowed some money from her brother to at least get their garments. But I'm sure that was embarrassing for her because he should be giving gifts to her family, not the other way around in their culture. But regardless, she got that help, and his plan is to ask Mr. Ark for the rest. Matilda honestly deserves an award for how calm and collected she's keeping it, even though she has every right to flip out. She's keeping it cute, but you could just see that she is just so disappointed. But she loves him, and she's just like, let's just get through this. That's her energy. She goes off to get his garments. He takes this time to call his parents. He's like, the right thing to do is to let them know that I'm coming home as a married man. Obviously, he's dreading this call because they have made their opinions about Matilda super clear. But he's like, I don't want to leave them in the dark. And honestly, that is super commendable. He calls them. He tells them, hey, I'm coming back as a married man. And we don't hear what they're saying on the other side, but it's obvious that they're giving pushback with his responses. And I am so proud of Niles because he doesn't deal well with confrontation. He has let us know that before. And I also know I'm a 33-year-old woman. I still hate confrontation with my family. And it's just hard to do, especially when it comes to your life partner. So I was really proud of him for asserting himself, but still remaining super respectful. I think they were telling him that he's irrational, he doesn't know her. And he's telling them I've known her for 2 years, I've met her now, and she's everything that I would dream of. She's this, she's that, she's caring, she's understanding. He's like, what about what I'm saying is sounding irrational to you? Can you explain that to me? And I don't think they did. I think that they're just like, you're doing the wrong thing. What I specifically love most about this conversation, even though it is painful, is that he never once asked for their permission. He didn't ask for their blessing. He's like, this is a courtesy call. I'm keeping you in the loop of my life. How you deal with it, I hope that you accept it, but I understand if you don't. And it was that. And when he hung up, he's talking to the producer and he's having a hard time with it. It broke my heart because what he says is, even if they don't mean it, I just wanted to hear, I'm happy for you. And the fact that they couldn't do that, they couldn't put their feelings aside, even after all this time, because, obviously he's been prepping for this trip. He's kept them in the loop. Yeah, that's disheartening, but at the end of the day, he has to make a life for himself. He's an adult. Then later that night, he's having a talk with Matilda, and, Matilda is aware now that, they definitely don't approve of her. And she's like, that's so scary to me that when I go to America, I'm not going to have their support. And we always hear about the foreigner that comes to America and they have a hard time with the transition because they're so lonely and their partner has to work to support them. But I think the added layer of her living with her family, always having people around, to then going to America and having no familial support, that's really hard. The whole situation is heartbreaking because I do believe that they love each other, but I also do believe that they're in over their head. And many people figure it out. I don't know if the pressure will be too much. Let me know what you think. But let's move on to the next couple, Faith and Loren. As you know, Faith's friends said that they caught Loren flirting with some drag queens and she was pissed and they haven't talked since that night. So the next morning, Loren, with his stupid little smirk, appear at her hotel room with coconuts, thinking that it's just gonna smooth things over. Faith views this as a betrayal, and I honestly think that she should have had this energy from the start when he admitted that he cheated with a bunch of people. Him flirting with drag queens isn't it. But I can see why she views this as a betrayal because she's not over it. And that's why it's so tricky to stay with someone after they've cheated. I'm not someone that can get past cheating. I feel like once you cheat on me, I'm going to be reading into every single thing that you do. And I feel like Faith is doing that because there's also the added layer of her insecurity. So it doesn't feel good. I get it. But Loren also isn't owning what is happening. He keeps asking questions like, but when did I flirt? And with who did they see me flirt? Because I don't remember. So then they play back the scene of him like talking to people and being a bit friendly. But what he says is that he actually was never flirting with drag queens. Someone went up to him saying that their friend liked him. He saw the girl. He was like, oh, you're too young for me. Also, I'm in love with my girl over here. And he apparently put his hand on this little girl's face. Good luck. Something stupid like that. And Faith is like, but why would you touch this person? And I had the same response. I'm like, that's still unnecessary affection, but also he's like, so I think that your friends just took that and assumed. And I think that that's very possible. I think that her friends don't like him for very valid reasons. And I think that they wanted to find a reason to pick him apart. And he makes it easy. Anyway, the truth is, Faith is embarrassed. She's embarrassed that he so nonchalantly mentioned that he hooked up with 7 girls, and she's like, how do I know that you're actually here for me? So honestly, it's a melting pot of her not feeling good about herself, her dealing with a cheater with no filter. It's just a lot. He insists that he loves her and that he wants a life with her and that he wants to get married with her and that maybe if they get married, he can just flash a ring and people won't flirt with him. Faith forgives him for the millionth time, and at this point, I'm like, Faith, you need to pick up your integrity. This man is not worth it. If he makes you feel so uneasy, that is a sign in itself. You don't need him to cheat again to decide that you don't want to be with him. And to end up their segment, this man is trying to squeeze out tears so hard to express how sad he is that he's leaving the Philippines. I mean, leaving Faith. It is just so forced, and Faith is eating it up. Let's move on to the next couple, Brian and Ingrid. Ingrid is seen walking along the beach on her own. She's trying to take some time to process everything that has come at her. Literally, at every turn, they have a good moment and he drops another bomb. She's like, do I even know this man? And so she's just like, am I just another Brazilian for Brian to conquer? I didn't even know that he dated half of Brazil. Not even dated, married, engaged to. That's a lot to take in. And it doesn't help that when he drops these bombs, he's like, oh, I didn't tell you, and just proceeds to gaslight and just be overall nasty about it. She says, she's like, I would like for us to be close, but every time we get close, he drops something that makes me want to add distance because it just feels unsafe. When they pan to Brian, his nasty little gremlin, he's like, oh, well, I'm just confused because Ingrid asked for space. Space? I mean, we're not even sleeping together. Because it always comes back to that. He's so sleazy. He's so mad that she won't have schmecks with him that he's like, space? Sir, I'm guessing the obligation is that you brought her on this trip because you want to see her every day. She's going to need space from that. She's realizing that she doesn't know you. It is mind-boggling to me that he's upset that she won't be intimate with him. It's perfectly normal for people to not want to be intimate with people they don't know. You keep proving to this lady that you are a stranger. At every turn, you reveal a new part of your identity That is massive. It's not like he's saying, oh yeah, you didn't know my favorite color is green. No. He's like, oh, you didn't know I was a drug dealer and that's why I'm paralyzed? You didn't know that I have X, Y, and Z affiliation? Oh, you didn't know that I cheated on every other wife of mine? Oh, you didn't know that I've been like married 4 times? Oh, you didn't know that my ex-wife had a hit on me? Like, these are big things. And she not only has to think about herself, she has to think about her kids. She's not some silly 20-something-year-old that is winging life. She's a grown woman that have people that depend on her. Also, she has a certain set of morals that clearly are clashing with you. And she's fighting through it because she's like torn between the guy that you painted yourself to be and the guy that you are revealing yourself to be. She's like, what is the truth? We see him calling up his sister again to complain because woe is me, everyone's against Brian. And again, he's like, you know, she wants space and my days are numbered here. And, you know, when she kisses me, it's like grandma kisses. The entitlement that this man has to this woman's body. You are a stranger to this woman. You are making it very clear that she does not know you, and your reactions to these bombshells are even worse. But even with that aside, he's going into this being like, I'm gonna reach out to her because I need to get to the bottom of the truth. Ingrid reaches out to him first because she's like, I want to touch base. I care for you. I want to see what we're doing. They meet up at a cafe. He has a stank attitude from the start. She looks lovely. She's like floating in, like, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm just confused. And so she's like, I called you here today because I'm really trying to process all of the things that you've told me. And this man is like, that's interesting because I don't feel like you're trying really. And he's like, you know, you asking for space, like when my days are limited here. And she's like, I think that it's perfectly fine that I'm taking time to process. I'm not allowed to take time. And that's really the biggest problem with Brian, that he drops things and thinks that you are not entitled to time to process. He wants you to put a smiley face and get over it because, again, he doesn't feel like women are there to be human beings. They're there to fulfill his needs. So it doesn't shock me that he has this reaction. But again, Ingrid is still learning about this man, and she's just like, there's a problem with me taking time. And so he continues to fix his lips to just be disrespectful. He's like, you say one thing, but you show another. AKA, you say you want me, but then you don't want to be physical with me. Crusty, dusty, sleazy. That's who Brian is, in my opinion. Ingrid is like, I'm not the only one that is saying one thing and revealing another. I'm not the only one, Brian. Good, Ingrid. Drag him. And again, it comes back to the intimacy. He's like, you know, like when we kiss, it's like grandma kisses. And she's like, that's normal. And we have to remember, Ingrid comes from a religious background. She still like checks in with her parents for like approval on things. She's not about to be making out with you on camera. I think that the scene that we saw of her in the lingerie was super out of her comfort zone. On camera, super. And I believe that also when we saw that conversation between him and her friends were being so like out there on camera, she was holding back. I really don't think that she's comfortable trying to film a corn for TLC. You know what I mean? So she's like, you call it grandma kisses. I think they're like normal kisses. Because again, she's not sleeping with him because he's not making it clear that it's safe. And it's just crazy to me that the guy that has the craziest track record is so picky choosy. Like, sir, I don't know who you think you are. But he continues to be like, you know, I'm looking for the love of my life, someone that I can like basically settle down with, someone that can take care of me basically. He's like, and you know, I honestly just feel like you're using me a little bit. Accepted a trip that I paid for. And to be fair, I think that you're using me to go to America with your kids. The face that she makes, because she is like, no, he didn't. The most unattractive thing a man could ever do is claim that they're offering you the world only to then throw it in your face. Because what that tells me is that all of your quote unquote generosity never came from a good place. If things don't come out of your heart because you want to make someone happy, if you only do things because you want something in return, shame on you. But also, thank you for telling on yourself. This is probably his crustiest move yet. And he's like, well, then why did you accept? Why did you accept to come here? She's like, you think that I'm with you for a passport? You think that you could give me a better life? You? She didn't do it like that, but that was the clear expression because his dusty ass, there is nothing that he could offer her that her parents aren't already doing. So she's like, excuse me? Brian is such a joke, and it is clear that he thinks he is the prize. He thinks that he can offer an abundance of blessings, when literally, from the moment that he landed in Brazil, he has brought her stress, he has brought her worries, he has brought her an occupation she didn't ask for, because what he's looking for is a home attendant. He's not looking for a partner. He is looking for a schmex worker. So it's just crazy to me and to her. Like, he thinks that he's, like giving you the world and you're not really trying. So she hears enough of the disrespect and she storms off. And she's like, who does he think he is? And I have never been prouder. And I think in the next episode, she leaves officially, or he leaves. And there's an airport goodbye scene where he's giving her the puppy eyes, trying to be like, I don't want it to end this way. But honestly, he deserves to be kicked to the airport. He doesn't deserve any more grace. I think that she has given him more than he deserves. I feel bad for what has led him to where he is, but he hasn't learned the lesson. Instead, he has this chip on his shoulder where he is the eternal victim, and he thinks that he can treat people as pawns. He is so disgusting to me. Honestly, I never want to see Brian beyond this season. I hope that they don't bring him back because he is despicable to me. You don't treat people like this. Anyway, let's move on to something a little lighter. We meet up with Vanja in Croatia. She refuses to give up, and I love that for her, okay? She does get on the apps. She goes on a few dates. Apparently, she went on a few with this guy, and he looked better than Bozo, but I think that their energies were very similar. He wasn't really doing too much. He wanted things to be really slow, and Vanya's gonna be Vanya, okay? So it didn't work out. But then we see her go on a separate date with this guy that's matching her freak. I forget what the guy's name, but he's the bald dude that looks like Vin Diesel. He looks so cute. He's matching her vibe. They're lusting for each other. It's going great. They go kayaking. She can't stop looking at his Speedo. There's a moment where he's switching out of his bathing suit and she's holding up a towel and she's like, I'm not looking. But I think that he wouldn't have been mad if she looked. At the end of it, they're hugging and it's super romantic because they're by the water and they just start making out. And honestly, from this moment forward, they don't stop making out. There's a moment where they're kissing on the beach, as I said, and right before they walk off, he's like, do you feel my excitement? I'm sure she could feel it through your tight-ass pants. So far, so good. She found someone that is clearly attracted to her, someone that is super active like her, someone that is vivacious like her. It may not go further than the physical, but at least there's established chemistry. So I'm already immediately happy for Vanya. It's she got her own episode of the single life within the B9B. So I love that for her. But anyway, when we see them that night, they're still making out in the streets of Croatia. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to invite him up to my place. Good for you. Have a good time. Do what adults do. But don't try to make a husband out of a guy that you've met one time, Vanya. Anyway, they go upstairs, they get to talking, and he's like, so what brought you to split? And she's like, overshares, of course. She's like, well, I came for a guy, and then he friend-zoned me, and then he dumped me. And so I was like, you know what? And he's like, and then you met me. And she's like, yeah. Super chill. I was scared that he would feel threatened at the fact that he's basically plan B. But no, he was like, good for you. But this is when I start to get scared with Vanya because she starts talking about their souls aligning. I'm like, girly, it's okay to feel lusty with someone and not have it be a soulmate situation. It's okay. But Vanya needs to feel that cosmic feeling, I guess, for it to make sense for her. And so at this point, they're eating, they're talking, and he reveals that he's a single dad. His kid is like 1 year old, and he decided to foster them and is in the process of adopting. And he's like, yeah, dating is hard for me because I'm a single dad. And immediately I'm like, okay, Vanja, love this. This definitely makes him more attractive. He's not afraid of commitment and settling down. But he's in Croatia and he has a young child. I don't know how willing he is to be traveling back and forth with a young child. And are you going to up and leave your life? Like, this is why we got to stop doing that what if. And while Vanja is googly-eyed, she's like, I'm not sure I'm ready to be a stepmommy for the right person, maybe, but like it would be too soon. So we'll see how it goes when I leave Croatia. What do you guys think? This guy seems like a cool dude. I just don't think that he's about to do long distance with anybody. They do agree to meet the next day, so I guess we'll see what happens. But girl, just have a good time and go. Next up is Magda and Joe. They wake up together. They were snuggling with Hades. He goes to walk Hades, and Magda's like, okay, well, I'm going to take the time to pack up the apartment because they're going to go to her hometown. Personally, Magda, you ain't low. This is an opportunity for you to snoop through his things. It's fine. I see your game. But she's talking to the producers and she's like, yeah, Joe said that he wasn't ready to get married right away. And I don't think he means it. I have a feeling that like he's going to propose to me by the end of this trip. Or he meant what he said, Magda. He's like, if he proposed in a week, like I would say yes. You barely know this man. You don't even want to share a bed with him for longer than a few hours. And you want to marry him? I don't know if she's a little psycho. I don't know if she's just young. I don't know if she's just thirsty to go to America. Like, I don't know what the deal is. But I do think that it is creepy how fast of a timeline she wants. And she's already talking in like future tense. So for example, Joe's room was all messy and she's like, when we have our house, is it gonna be like this? Like you're just gonna have your things all over? Like I can't have that in our house. What house? Like this is the first time meeting. If I were to be in a long distance relationship and I'm trying to leave everything behind at 23, when I have so much time to figure it out, honey, we're going to be traveling back and forth for a little bit before I decide that. I need to see how you live. I need to meet your friends. I need to meet your family. I'm not just going to throw myself to the wolves. That's what happened when she went to Germany. And it didn't work out. When we see Joe walking the dog, he's stressed out because he's like, she really is pushing the marriage thing. And like, I'm not ready for that. Like, I love her. I want to be with her, but marriage is a big deal. They're not on the same page, and it comes to a head when they get to her hometown. He decides to make her, a cute little dinner in her apartment. And he did some snooping of his own, and he saw that she had like teddy bears and things, and he's like, oh, so did your friends get that, or ex-boyfriends get that for you? And she says that it's mostly her friends, that like she only has like one thing from an ex. I don't believe that, personally. But whatever. So, like, how long were you with the German guy before you moved there? And she said 3 months. And he's like, well, that's quick. Is that something that you do? And she's like, I've only done it once. And he's like, And she's like, yeah, and it's not fast because if I wouldn't have left when I did, then I would have never known he was cheating. And Joe is like, that's one way to look at it. And so Joe is like, maybe that logic works for dating, but not for marriage. Because when you're married, then you have to go through a divorce. And that's a lot. She's clearly peeved. She's like, I didn't say you have to propose to me tomorrow. Girl, yes, you did. He needs to propose by the end of the trip. But we learn more because she apparently bought a ticket already to America. And I think that's great. She can go visit and see what it's like. But instead, in her brain, she's like, I told you that I have this plan of going to America, but I can only stay if we're going to get married. And he's like, yeah, like, great, you can come visit. And she's like, no, like, if I'm wasting my time, like, I don't want to do this. I think they both share blame. I think that she's hearing what she wants to hear. I think that she has a timeline and she's like, you need to get with it. And I don't think that's how partnership works. Also, I'll be damned if I'm taking orders from a 23-year-old. I also blame Joe because I think that he's so caught up with the possibility of like getting with her because she's this beautiful girl that when she speaks, he's like checking out and just being like, instead of putting his foot down and saying no. But because he hasn't done that, she feels like he's playing games. And I'm over it. Because she's 23, she's being passive aggressive about this. And she's like, you know what? You never have to propose to me. It's fine. And she starts like cleaning aggressively and like being like, you do whatever you want. He needs more time, which I think is valid. But also her reaction is a huge red flag to me. I wouldn't marry you just because you're insecure. Like, that's not how this works. And we see her before bed talking to her producer, and she's like, I don't know why he's doing this. I'm such a good person. And honestly, if we see Magda in an episode of Snapped, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, let's move on to the final couple, Sunny and Veah. You guys, the producers are so shady because you know how they have like the graphic with like the couple and they're like either posing angry or posing smiling? They have a graphic with Rory. Someone said that it looked like the intro to the worst corn video there ever was. And I agree. Everyone looks depressed. And I don't understand why Veah looks depressed in it because this is what she wanted. Sunny and Veah are at a cafe. And remember she promised him that she would send Rory back home. And I don't think she means it. She tells Sunny that she feels bad that she was put in that position, that it's not fair to her. And I'm gonna tell you something right now, Veah. No one put you in that position but you. If your friendship with Rory isn't an issue, then you shouldn't have hid it. You lied about it and made it a bigger problem than it needed to be. Your shadiness surrounding it put you in this position. On top of the fact that you guys already had all these trust issues, and a lot of it had to do with your connection to Rory. It was never gonna work out. But Sunny's having a moment where he's feeling guilt for the way that he acted, and he's like, you know, that wasn't my best response. Like, I know that I have to work through that. But we have a lot of issues. We've been in person together for 2 seconds. And you're gonna bring this guy that brings issues into our relationships. Like, I get that you guys have a friendship, but you needed to keep that ish in America. I don't know why you brought it here. And I honestly, that made me laugh because that's fair. I don't wanna have to see it. I'm a jealous dude. I don't wanna have to see it. You could do what you do when I'm not there. But overall, Sunny just feels embarrassed that Rory got the best of him in that way. And he's also like, at his core, he understands that like he was there to make Veah feel safe. And of course he wants that. He loves Veah. But still, like, it triggered something in him. Veah is adamant that she wants both of them in her life. Sunny's like, you know what? If he's leaving, like, I want to make peace. And Veah feels comfortable now. I don't believe any of this. I really do think that this is a fabrication from her. I just think it's manipulative AF that you do something bad to your partner and then when they react in a way that they're entitled to, you're somehow the victim of their reaction. Like, it just feels real gross to me. But whatever, I'm not in this relationship. And she's like, well, Sunny's reaction is making me feel safe, so I'm gonna send Rory back home. She sends a text to Rory. And basically, moral of the story, they all agreed to meet up one last time before Rory leaves. So they're going on this safari tour, and it's awkward. I don't know if it's editing, but there's this like really bad vibe, awkward silence. And you would think that Veah, the person that orchestrated this, the person that so badly wanted her boyfriends to get along, you would think that she would be chipper. You would think that she would be moving a conversation along. But instead, she looks like Eeyore and is adding nothing to the atmosphere. And I'm just like, do you want things to be tense? Like, is that actually your motive here? So they're on this tour, and it's just them, and it's awkward, right? Like, Rory, I'm like, why would you put yourself through this? Your ex-girlfriend is all up over her man, and you're just in the back looking around. It is just not ideal, okay? But also, and I know that I'm being hard on Veah, but she makes it so easy. Many people have not left the States. That's common. Veah has never opened a book. She hasn't opened Google. Because they see a wildebeest, and this girl is like, is that a pig? And so her stupidity actually does break the ice between Rory and Sunny because they're laughing at her because she has 0 sense. So anyway, there's a moment that she goes out to pee and Sunny and Rory are left in this thing by themselves. And Sunny's like, oh, so you're having a good time here? And Rory's like, yeah. Are you guys? And Sunny's like, yeah, we are, especially now that you're leaving. He said something along those lines. He's making it clear that he's like, this is the best thing you could have done for us. And then he just starts running his mouth about how the whole situation was unfair to him. And it was unfair to him. But the way that he's talking about it is almost like pointing a finger at Rory. And Rory's like, I would tread carefully. When he first started that, I was confused because I'm like, Sunny, you said you wanted to apologize. Like, this isn't an apology. Eventually, he does apologize. He's like, my behavior didn't match that of my faith. I was really embarrassed. Basically, that he was triggered. He's like, I don't feel right about how it went down, and I just don't want there to be bad blood between us. Rory was receptive to it. However, I think that Sunny's reaction was fair. And I think that Rory also owes Sunny an apology. I don't know, I just get the vibe that Rory was ready to fight Sunny. And then there's this moment where they're at like a waterfall and Rory asks if Veah has met Sunny's family. And Veah's like, no, he's hiding me. And Sunny explains that his family is super religious and he's not hiding, he's just waiting for the right time basically. I think he's hiding, but I also think it's because he's dealing with someone that doesn't understand the relationship that she's got herself into. It was made clear to her by his friends and by Sunny that when she meets his family, she needs to cover up her tattoos, just cover up. And so I think he's dragging his feet with it because she's giving him pushback. Here's the thing. I think it's common sense that you dressed modest when you meet people's families. Whether it's your friend, whether it's your partner, you dress modest. I wouldn't wear a crop top the first time I meet them. I wouldn't wear short shorts. Like, there's some things that are just common sense. But again, we've established common sense is not so common with Veah. She doesn't get that it's a respect thing, and so she's whining to Rory about this. And again, this is why it's an issue that she keeps putting him in the middle of her relationship. But for once, I think it comes to Sunny's benefit. She's complaining that she's like, I feel like I'm being asked to change myself. I would never ask you to change yourself. And Rory is like, that seems like a fair ask, though. And she looks so offended that Rory would agree with Sunny. She's like, would you want someone to ask you to change yourself? And it's like, girl, it is temporary. It is just for a meetup. Obviously, this guy knew who you were beforehand, but his family did not sign up for you. I also feel like this is just idiotic. You got with someone that is of a different culture, of a different faith. You think that you're not gonna have to make some compromises? Same for Sunny. You wanted to be with an American white girl. You don't think that it's gonna be hard to get her to understand where you come from? And this is why I say that you can't play marriage with everybody. And this is where I'm like, what are we actually doing here? Y'all are not ready for marriage. Y'all are barely ready to be in a relationship. Many people do things in their family dynamics to keep the peace. Obviously, Sunny is someone that rebels in his daily life from what his family thinks is right. But when you go to your family's place, you show respect. And I don't think it's a lot to ask for, to ask your partner to play that part with you for X amount of hours, and then you go off and live your lives. So Veah has both of her boyfriends telling her that she should be open to doing this. There's a point that Rory's like, yeah, dating Veah was really hard. She's super hard-headed. So he was kind of like getting a kick out of seeing it happen with Sunny and being like, not my problem. But joke's on you, Rory. It is your problem because you're the dumbass that got on a plane to go to South Africa to watch her kiss some other guy. I just feel like you're not that far removed. But overall, it is just crazy to me that someone that has gone through so much life can be so dense. She has retained nothing, and maybe it's a trauma response, but it's just crazy to me that she can't process just basic life-ish, you know? But yeah, you guys, that was the end of this episode. Let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to read them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.